G'day everybody, where's Wally here? Well, this one is a beauty. This is a collaboration video that I put together with a few other content creators. Now, I asked some fellow content creators to, well, create some content for this fellow. This is a great community we have here, well, on this side at least. Your man Gander, he's a great content creator, and he only has 110 subs, and wow, he really needs some more, so please sub to him. He is so professional for such a small and very scientific channel. I really like his style. And the links to all the providers are, as always, in the description below. There is Arctic Reflections, Tommy Grunfeld, Huge R's, Wade's Underworld, and Critical Think to round out this excellent group of providers. I'm also going to give this video to Seek Truth, Speak Truth, and he's going to watch it live and make a React style video. So hopefully that will be out in the not too distant future as well. So that should be fun to watch. Well, strap in guys and enjoy. This is going to be a long one. And I've also put the chapterized down on the timeline so you can skip around really easy.
Flat earthers are fond of telling globers that we should do our own research, as if an observation is somehow more valid for having been done first person. Every other glober in this video does his own observations and comes to conclusions inimical to flat earth dogma, so doing your own research clearly isn't the issue. When flurfs do observations of the physical world, rather than research on YouTube University, they fail to understand that their mistakes aren't in choosing to do their own research, but in the planning and execution of the observation and the interpretation of the results. Why? Because they're more acquainted with the scientific method as a slogan than as a process to engage with. Flurfs use their observations like a drunk uses a lamppost, for support rather than illumination. They choose a marginal observation that's likely to confirm their beliefs rather than challenge them. They perform their observations under conditions most likely to confirm their beliefs rather than present the phenomenon clearly. And they interpret their results in the context of their a priori beliefs rather than letting their observations inform those beliefs. It's just one long, pointless exercise in confirmation bias. There may be an example of a flurf changing his mind about how the world works, even if still within the context of flat earth, but I'm not aware of one. And how do their minions respond? With unstinting, unqualified, uncritical praise. Peer review is a key facet of the scientific method, but the only person practicing it is FE peer review, and he's a glober. Check out his channel, by the way. He's not a debunker, but a reviewer, and flat earthers are entirely ungrateful for his service. Where's the constructive criticism within the flat earth community? Where's the exchange of ideas? The one well-known instance of disagreement that I can recall is when Nathan Oakley had a falling out with Bob Nodell over the nature of the 15-degree-per-hour drift his gyroscope measured, and that was only because Nathan realized that calling it an experiment, as Bob did, put the methodological stamp of approval on the result and simultaneously drove a dagger through the heart of flat earth. Just more confirmation bias. So come on, flurfs, pull your socks up. There was more robust discussion about the nature of Christ during the First Council of Nicaea 1700 years ago than you have now, and they didn't even have any physical evidence to argue about. Where's your discernment? Where are your critical thinking skills? You can do better than posting a reflexive attaboy every time someone puts up a new video of a fuzzy horizon on a hazy day.
Flat earthers say that the sunrise and sunset are caused by perspective. But perspective is just a mathematical formula to explain how big objects appear to be at a certain distance. So when they show this video, they show that the sun goes from far away, over your head, and far away again. That's not how I see it. From where I live, just north of Oslo, Norway, the distance to where the sun is supposed to be on the flat earth with the sun 3,000 miles up just doesn't change that much during the day. From sunrise to midday and sunset, there is really not that much difference. It's like if you go into a basketball court, stand under the hoop, then walk 2.6 meters back or 8.7 feet. That's the same angle as I have to the sun, that you're looking up to the hoop. There's also no explanation for how a sun higher up than the clouds can light them up from underneath like this. They also say stuff like ships disappearing bottom first because of the Rayleigh criterion or perspective or compression. None of those explain bottom first. So they try with angle of attack, whatever that is, because the angle towards the bottom is smaller than the angle towards the top or something. But when I'm standing here at 22 meters or 70 feet, that's just about halfway up this ship. So the angle towards the top and the bottom are the same. On a flat surface, that shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. But when that ship is going away from me, the bottom is going first. The thick blue strip at the bottom disappears first, and the skinny radar and chimney is what I see at the end. According to that Rayleigh criterion, I should be able to see all of that ship 3 times further away than it was. And there were no waves that day large enough to cover all that ship. They would need to be higher than me. That's simple geometry. However, if we just add a little curve to this, say about 1 degree per 69 miles or 111 kilometers, that fits just about perfect what I saw. So to end this, let's just throw a bit of Occam's razor in there. You need to come up with all excuses like perspective, compression, Rayleigh criterion, everything. And then you need to adjust all of them to make them fit your beliefs. We say curvature, and it fits.
Hey, thanks Wally mate. Hi there, I'm Wade from the Wade's Underworld channel. I'm going to share a few of my insights, frustrations and things I've learned from the last few years of debating, talking to and debunking flat earthers. First up, Polaris, the shining light of the flat earth. Some flat earthers even say it's God himself watching over the flat earth while all the stars in the sky rotate around him, anti-clockwise of course, creating some beautiful star trails when a camera is in the hands of someone that actually knows how to focus it. Many a flat one has suggested that I should observe Polaris so I can see for myself the stationary truth of the flat earth, even suggesting that I do my own star trail looking north, and then I'll see Polaris in the center of the star trails. So that's what I did. But there's one massive problem. I can't see Polaris from my home in Australia. And as you can see from this star trail I did from my home, Polaris isn't just below my horizon. For this to fit into this, the North Star would have to be way down there, about 32 degrees below my horizon. And if we have a look at why this proves the Earth is a globe, my latitude in the southern hemisphere is 32 degrees south, about here, corresponding with the angle to Polaris. All these lines here are parallel because the North Star is extremely far away. And if I was on a flat Earth out here somewhere, it does not work because my view of Polaris is blocked by this giant round rock, which just so happens to be spinning about once every 24 hours, giving us the ability to create star trails like this one looking south from my backyard. This is the southern celestial pole, which is always due south for me and my friends in South Africa and my friends in South America. But flat earthers will say, how does this work if the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour? Wouldn't the star trails be flying all over the place? Well, besides the flat Earth problem of scale, speed is relative, and measuring speed from a fixed point in a 4-dimensional space is impossible and just plain silly. Any active deep space mission which is being tracked by the Deep Space Network will often give 3 speeds for the probe or spacecraft that it's tracking. The relative speed from Earth, the relative speed from the Sun, and the relative speed to the target such as Jupiter or even Saturn. That's what I saw on this site with Cassini, also when Juno was making its approach into the Jovian system. My point is, when flat earthers say the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour, all they're doing is basing their whole argument on a misunderstanding of simple scientific explanations that were quite literally made for children. The Earth spins once every 24 hours. That sounds pretty damn slow to me. The rotation of the Earth can be measured using star trails. This star trail here of mine is exactly 200 minutes long. I remember because the intervalometer, I switched it off and it was at 200 minutes. So it was 200 minutes or 3 hours and 10 minutes. The Earth rotates 15 degrees an hour, so that's 15 times 3, giving us 45 degrees, plus an extra 2.5 degrees for the extra 10 minutes. If we place a 360-degree protractor over the star trail and mark 0 and 47.5 degrees, and we then overlay that onto one of the star trails that stand out, like this one just here, we can see that it lines up pretty much perfectly, showing us that in the 200 minutes or 3 hours and 10 minutes, my camera on the Earth rotated exactly 47.5 degrees, proving that poor old Bob was right. How many degrees does the Earth turn again?
If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees.
Thanks, Bob. And this star trail also shows that if I were to use an equatorial mount right here in my backyard, aligned to the southern celestial pole, to track these stars, it's blatantly obvious that I can only use a mount like this to track these stars if the Earth is a globe. Well, I think I've gone over my time. Thank you all for listening to me. And where's Wally? Keep up the great work, mate, and thanks. See ya.
Nathan Oakley, the other day when he was on Bob the Science Guy and when he was on Sci-Man Dan,
Amazing.
Nathan said some very interesting things. Yeah, have a listen.
We are all in agreement, Jazz. Yes, there is a pressure gradient.
Now, to all the fatties who often say, well, you can't have an atmospheric pressure right beside a sky vacuum, you do know that your thought leader, Nathan Oakley, has now stated irrevocably that there is a pressure gradient in the atmosphere.
We are all in agreement, Jazz. Yes, there is a pressure gradient.
Now, Nathan, that admission has set a precedent for you and all your friends.
Okay, Nathan admitting that there is a pressure gradient in the atmosphere is a key admission on his part.
So as soon as Nathan accepted atmospheric pressure gradient, then you accepted that the upper limit has to be 0, or 1 by 10 to the minus 17 torr. Unless, Nathan, you can come up with some magic, some reason that the gradient stops before reaching 0. And we're going to want to know all about that, because we know, Nathan, one thing about you is you don't like to make claims because then you're held to account. And Nathan, when I showed your claim to Wolfie, he said exactly the same thing as Bob the Science Guy. How far and why?
At what point does it stop going down before it reaches 0? And why does it stop going down?
Now I want to ask you, Nathan, why does the gradient stop before reaching 0?
So you're saying there's less air up high. Well, yes, that's true. We agreed to that. But that doesn't mean that it dissipates to 0. That would violate natural law. Because if it was 0, that would mean it was just an empty void for the gas to fill.
And just how far up is that where it stops?
It's not a sky vacuum called outer space, the most powerful vacuum known to man, according to the religion of sky vacuums and spheres in them. It's not just nothing. It's 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, according to your religion.
Nathan, are you seriously saying that vacuum of space is less than nothing?
It's not just nothing. It's 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum.
You do know that 1 by 10 to the negative 17 torr is not less than nothing, Nathan. Exactly greater than nothing. By a little tiny bit. And Nathan, see on this graph, that yellow zone down the bottom, what would you call that zone where pressures aren't allowed to go below 0?
That's a violation of natural law.
Correct, mate.
It's not just nothing. It's 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum.
So if you're wondering why Nathan Oakley goes to all this bother to stop everyone thinking that there's a gradient, this is why.
So the sky is not a vacuum, outer space is fake. And therefore all claims of any travel or photographs from that region or through that region are automatically deemed void. Lies, fake, fraud, scam, sham, not real. Nothing that's occurred in space, or is claimed to have occurred in space, has ever actually occurred.
Because now, Nathan, none of these things are out of play anymore. These are all valid, so you're going to have to put up with a lot more questions about the ISS in particular, mate. You really shouldn't have said that there is actually an atmospheric pressure gradient, should you, Nathan?
It's not just nothing, it's 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum.
Then it was my turn. Welcome to the Arctic. CGI shouts flat Earth fanatics as soon as they see a picture or video of something they do not understand or do not believe exists. Okay, if they call me CGI. But all pictures taken in, or from space are fake according to them. Tower crane fanatics, Level Earth Observer is one of many flat earthers who often shout CGI. Let's take a look at one of his videos.
Hubble is about making scientific discoveries.
It's not about making scientific discoveries. Hubble's about producing CGI and propaganda, mate. Alright, let's get it right. Let's have it right. If you're going to claim scientific discoveries, you better have something of substance that backs that fucking claim. Not just a picture of some banana in space.
These discoveries come at a regular enough pace.
Don't get me wrong. I love the lava lamps in the 70s, and this is a little bit of a sort of 70s lava lamp. But it's not real.
About Level Earth Observer, his real name is Adam. If he were interested in the truth, he could borrow a telescope from someone and with his own eyes see many of the beautiful things they photographed using Hubble. Many of the planets and several galaxies he could look at in the telescope. But, the reality is probably scary. Something else flat earther often dismisses as CGI are images taken of the Earth from satellites. As an argument, they always have how the images were created. But all they manage to prove is their own total ignorance of how a camera works. This picture is a good example. This is how NASA describes it. Twin blue marbles. This view of Earth from space is a fusion of science and art, drawing on data from multiple satellite missions and the talents of NASA scientists and graphic artists. It is this type of description that flat earthers uses as proof that the pictures are fake. Or CGI as they say. But is CGI fake? Why use multiple images? The satellites are so close to the Earth that you do not get the whole on one exposure. Furthermore, they do not photograph color images. You get the best resolution if you shoot in grayscale. The pictures from your camera are basically in grayscale. They are usually in RGB. Red, green, blue. This image is CGI, it consists of 3 different color channels and 8 source images. Please do not tell Mr. Sensible that he is CGI and does not exist. Thank you. Link to my channel below.
Thanks, Wal. My things that flat earthers say are about Antarctica. First thing they say is that it's an ice wall at the edge of the Earth. Well, actually, some flat earthers say that it's an ice wall preventing us getting to lands on the other side of the wall. Others say that the ice wall is there holding in the world's oceans. Whatever. They all say that there is an ice wall. This is pretty easy to disprove. Then again, isn't it always easy? For a start, if they mean the coast of Antarctica is an ice wall, well then that's easily shown as false. Many tourist companies take people to Antarctica every summer around Christmas time. They give tourists the chance to actually stand on the continent of Antarctica. To do that, you need an actual coast to land on. Just one area where you can do that disproves the coastal ice wall idea. Yes, there are parts of the Antarctic coastline that resemble an ice wall, but to hold in the world's oceans, wouldn't all of the coastline have to be that? And Antarctica has been crossed many times by air and on the surface. No ice wall reported. Certainly no dome coming down to the ground. Not to mention that we have satellite images that show Antarctica as one continent, and that the Earth is a globe. Regardless, anyone who incorporates fictional elements from recent popular culture into their view of reality is someone who doesn't actually have a valid view of reality. The second thing that flat earthers say about Antarctica is that you can't go there. The Antarctic Treaty prevents it, and the military actively prevents it.
Well, I've already mentioned that heaps of tourists and adventurers already go there, so no. But not one of these tourists or adventurers have seen or photographed a controlling force. And there's nothing in the Antarctic Treaty about having a military force. You can look at it yourself.
And think about the logistics if the military prevented access. Assume that the azimuthal equidistant projection is the best representation of the flat Earth. Flat Earthers don't offer anything else, so we'll have to go with that. We know that the distance pole to pole is roughly 20,000 kilometres. So in the Frisbee world, the circumference is approximately 2 pi r, where r is 20,000 kilometres. That's about 125,664 kilometres of wall to patrol.
That's 31 USA's or even Australia's.
So the governments of the world, who never agree on anything, are somehow pooling their resources and patrolling 31 times that distance, just to keep out the occasional wayward explorer, who somehow get to the continent anyway. And this completely ignores the difficulty of doing anything at all in that region of the world due to climate and weather. You know, at what point does all this become just too ridiculous to be likely? A third thing the flat earthers say about Antarctica involves Admiral Byrd. He was the first person to fly over the South Pole and indeed across Antarctica. So that in itself disproves the Antarctica isn't a continent theory. But somehow complete morons ignore that and twist the words of the good Admiral to suit their crazy worldview. What they particularly pick up on is this. They interpret dome as the firmament. It's a bit of a jump considering part of Byrd's work in Antarctica was to perform geological surveys where the word dome has a specific meaning. A volcanic dome is just an outcrop of rock, basically. And he talked about there being lots of land. He was correct. But it's covered in snow and ice. I'm sure Byrd was looking at it as if that land could be exploited like northern Canada or Siberia is. And being an admiral, he probably didn't think much of the difficulties in running shipping to Antarctica. It's all possible, but Byrd wasn't an economist or businessman. Being possible and being economically viable are two different things. That's my bit. Back to you, Wal.
Well, okay, I guess this is my turn. The ISS, and boy do these flatties sometimes say some very odd things about the ISS, simply so they don't have to think about what it means. Jaron used to always say the live feed drops out all the time. Well, he made that claim and he wanted to see a 1 hour of unbroken live feed, which of course he knew you couldn't because there is actually only 2 communication satellites that take the live feed, which means they're 45 minutes apart, and every 45 minutes they've got to swap and do an antenna realignment, which means you can't get it in 1 hour.
And there is not one single photograph or video of this station being constructed.
No video of construction, Bob. Well, again, this is not true. There is a link in the description to Walter Bisland's excellent collection of just that. Now remember guys, this was built over many years, so there's not going to be just one single video of this.
You cannot see an object 254 miles up because it has a angular size of about 50 arc seconds. Remember, our visual acuity limit is 60 arc seconds or 1 arc minute. Okay, so you can't see it.
But Bob, you can see the ISS with a P900 even if you can't see it with your naked eye. The ISS at 400 kilometers is about the same size as a 1 centimeter capital H on a card at about 100 meters away. And it's so simple that even I could do that.
Interestingly enough, there are certain websites that claim you can see it at all hours of the night, which is frankly impossible, but I haven't, checked the veracity of that.
Yes, you can see it at midnight, Bob, just a couple of times of the year when the plane of the orbit of the ISS and the day-night terminator run parallel to each other near a solstice. Then the ISS does not see the sunset at all for a few days. I mean, in June and July months when the ISS is actually visible at midnight, and it's right across the full sky in the northern regions of USA, Canada, China, Europe. So check it out.
How is it that we are able to see it the entire time across the sky? It never seems to change angular size. It doesn't ever seem to change brightness.
Well, the brightness does vary, but more importantly, it actually blinks out sometimes, and that occurs when the ISS travels from full sunlight into the Earth's shadow, when it does that partway across the sky, it's absolutely amazing. And when it blinks out, that is a really, really cool globe sign.
5 miles per second. Now think about that speed for a second, guys. 5 miles per second is one of those numbers that, again, is absolutely incomprehensible, all right?
They also have conniptions over the speed, but the speed is right. We checked. Well, Ruhef, Wade's Underworld, and Where's Wally, we did it one night. We timed it, and we got it pretty much in the ballpark, and it was going fast. Now, has any flatties ever done a speed test of the ISS? And I love that Bob thinks that this little beach full of people with tiny mirrors reflecting light is any sort of proof, because you're showing that even one little tiny mirror can be seen from a long way away. Didn't think of that though, did you? I'm not sure what you're thinking, Bob, because is there anything here that you can see that can be reflective? Where is that light coming from on the side of the ISS? Did you even look? Moreover, check out my link on the ISS Kills Flat Earth. I did a whole video on this thing, and it is absolutely brilliant, even if I do have to say so myself.
Well, g'day flatties and globe defenders, it's Critical Think from Down Under. Flatties tell themselves that the horizon doesn't rise to eye level because we can't see far enough. This is a bit odd when you consider that they also claim we see too far. Contradicting oneself is never a problem for flat earthers. What's really important is that the answer must be flat. Let's hear some more about this.
YouTuber Critical Think wants to know why eye level is above the horizon line in his picture here. It's very simple. We simply cannot see that far.
On a foggy day, the horizon is at your feet. So depending on how much moisture or muck is in the air, depends on where the horizon would appear.
When you can see further on a clearer day, it will have the effect of increasing the height of the horizon. You can see further. You can see, if you can only see up to this point, 10 miles away, and on a better day when you can see further, you can see 12 miles, you can see 14 miles, you can see 16 miles, 18 miles, 20 miles. It allows you to see further. The horizon will rise up. No longer will the sky become overlap the ocean, because you can see further, which allows you to see more of the ground, which allows you to see further. It's a very easy concept.
It's a very easy concept for you, but it's wrong, as usual. So here, let's have a look at this. There's a bit of a problem here. In which picture is the horizon the highest? Well, I say it's the one on the right. But on the one on the left, you can see further. So that's just backwards from what you just said. And see this picture, I'm at an observer height of 7 metres. See that guy standing in the boat? The horizon doesn't rise to eye level. You can add another metre for the inferior mirage there on the horizon. So that leaves about 4 metres. There's no problem. Is 93 million mile visibility good enough for you? Now here's what it looks like if we have visibility problems. This is very hard to see where the horizon is in this picture. I can just see the horizon, but there's a ship there. This is what you see when you have lack of visibility. This is a clear day. Here I am, an elevation of 15 metres. That island is 30 kilometres away roughly, and that ship is about 12 kilometres away. So you should see the water rise up between the ship and the island, but you don't. And it's not because of visibility. And here's some examples of the horizon going up and down when there's no visibility problems. That's going to rip the crust right out of your nightie, isn't it?
Well, thanks for watching, or skipping if you made it this far. And don't forget to sub to all those smaller creators and to help them along and keep them creating for our flat destroying entertainment. Bye guys.